Hey guys, this is Anthony Romrell, and in this video we're just going to talk about a little introduction to ZBrush. So let's get on started. This is ZBrush, and if you just start drawing, it's just going to give you whatever tool you used last. So, if you grab a sphere this isn't a sphere, if whatever shape you load in. So if you go to Tools, you select a shape, cones. It's going to let you just start drawing, and this is not what we want to do for default, right? So I'm just going to say document, new document, don't save it. What we're really trying to do is we edit tools. Okay, so we can draw something on here, and what we're going to start out by drawing is what's called a Z-sphere. So we're just going to click on a Z-sphere, and we're going to draw it on our scene, and we're not going to do anything else because, see, if we draw it again, then we're running into the same problem where we have these Z-spheres we're just adding. That's not what we want, right? So again, document, new document, save, no. So we'll go to Z-sphere, we'll draw a Z-sphere out here, and then we're going to go straight to edit. So either click edit up here or hit the T button, right? And by default, it probably won't show the floor, but we can turn the floor on like that. That is pretty helpful too. You can hold the shift key, and the shift key will straighten things out. I like to rotate on Y. You tumble, it's not like Maya if you're a Maya user. You can hit the F key and that still frames, but zooming out is kind of weird. So we just hit, we go to right here to zoom 3D, and we can pull that out. Okay. Also, a few things that I think are helpful to set ZBrush up the first time is to turn a couple things on. So I turn the floor on. We turn on perspective if you like. So I think perspective is helpful, but if you don't like it, turn it on, off. So orthographic, perspective. Again, I think it's helpful to rotate on the Y axis only. Framing just puts it into frame. You can move, you can zoom in and out, right? And then there's rotate the canvas, fine, all that stuff. And then we want to hit the X key so that we can draw. Now we're in edit mode. What we do with the Z-sphere is we'll click on it to add like an appendage. So let's say I want to add an upper body. If I pull them together, so if they're separate, they're highlighted red. If they come together, it highlights green, and we can draw another Z-sphere on top. Great. So there's a second Z-sphere. If we want to add like limbs or arms, we'll click and pull. We can drag another Z-sphere. Now we're in drawing mode, which means we're going to draw Z-spheres onto this, so-called character. And every time I click, it adds another appendage. Then I can go to different tools like move, where I can grab the Z-spheres and pull them out. Right? And I'm getting kind of a weird result here, so we'll grab these Z-spheres and pull them out. So I could do that sort of thing. Every time I select, I could move a Z-sphere to wherever I think it's good or bad. Okay, then I can scale the Z-spheres, so I can click on a Z-sphere here and pull it right or left. Right, to scale it up, scale it down. And if I click on a different Z-sphere, I could scale it or move it. So go back to move. Click on this one, move it out. Okay. And you kind of get the idea. So we're building sort of an armature of a character. Now, we can start by building our own Z-spheres, or we can go to our lightbox here, and we can load in a Z-sphere. Now, there's lots of things we can load in. But since we're focusing on Z-spheres, we'll do a little search here. So we got projects, and we've got mannequins here, and should have a Z-sphere one. So I'm going to make this as big as possible. There's one Z-sphere. We can say no, that'll load in as a Z-sphere by default for us to work on, which is probably a better place to start. Go back to Lightbox, and tools, and projects, recent. We've got alphas, materials, quick save. Brushes, textures, alphas. I mean, we've just got a number of things to work with. Recent files. So there's the Z-sphere we're working on. Now in here we've got like head planes, we've got dynameshes, and then hidden deep down in here is this little one called Z-sphere. It's kind of hard to find. There's the Z-zoo, there's Z-spheres. So let's click on that, and we can just load in a project. So there's a scorpion, there's a human, right? So let's click on this kind of character right here. No, we won't save this project. And now we have a Z-sphere. Let's hit frame to fit it, or we can pull out, right? And then we could just take this one, make sure you're in edit. Then we could either move the Z-spheres, we can scale the Z-spheres, we can rotate them, etc. Okay. Now the next thing we want to do is convert this Z-sphere. So we don't want it to just be a Z-sphere. We want it to become a mesh. So now that we've loaded a Z-sphere in, that's what we're going to do next, is turn this into what's called an adaptive mesh. Okay, so to do that, what we're going to do is with this object, we're going to come over here to our tool palette, and I clicked on, it'll just, by the way, it will just randomly load in a tool that you're editing. So this is the tool we're editing. So what we'll do is we'll come down here to adaptive skin. On the iPad, it's called adaptive mesh, not to be confused with the iPad version. And we can hit this preview button. It'll give us a preview. Great. Density, let's take the density down to 2 or a 1. Preview that. Maybe that's too small. Go back up to a 2. We can have a dynamesh resolution, so let's lower that. Preview that. I kind of like that, to be honest. Now that might sound weird. The reason I just like low res meshes to deal with. So maybe we could up it just a little bit to a 3. Turn that preview back on. Right. I'm going to put it down to a 0. And then you just hit make adaptive skin. And it's on preview mode. Turn it off. It hasn't loaded the adaptive skin. You have to be aware that once you've done that, you can keep editing this, but if you want to work on the adaptive skin, it's right here. So that's one I created earlier. This is the one that's fairly low res. Now that that's done, we could start to sculpt this. So make sure we're in edit mode, make sure we're in draw. And now what it's doing is we can sculpt on this thing, right? So keep in mind, this is a different tool now. We are now editing a mesh. We could still go into this and add or edit, right? This object, but it has no relationship to this previous mesh, okay? So if we do this and we've made changes and we want to edit this adaptive mesh again, we have to go back to adaptive skin, and let's preview that. And let's take this dynamic mesh to like a 16. Preview that. That's probably not what we want. Preview. Actually, don't mind that. So density, let's take the density to a 2. Preview that. That's probably what I'm looking at. So come back down, make a new mesh, and it's just going to load up meshes over here. So just be aware of what it's doing as it's working, right? So here's the newest mesh right there. And, when we're done, we could just save this project. So file save, don't put this on GitHub or anything like that, right? So now just feel free to goof around with tools. If you just come over here, grab a brush and experiment with it, right? So you can say, I like clay and clay buildup. Clay buildup's one of my favorite tools. You can see that just is going to move polygons around. If we turn on what's called Sculptris Pro, it's actually going to add geometry to this, right? Well, at least I expected it to. It doesn't look like it is. probably have to convert this to a Dynamesh. But anyway, there is your introduction to using ZBrush and Z-Spheres.